Hey, Dr. Bruce here for tip number 30, and we're getting towards, kind of the end of all this stuff, but now I want to talk about your patient reactivation program. First of all, this is recalls. That's what we're talking about, recalls. And I want to drop something on you before I get into the mechanism here, but you have to consider the lifetime value of a patient. And if a patient comes into your office for 3 or 4 visits and then you lose them, you might have, if you're doing advertising, people are when you look at your actual cost of advertising, you might be spending $150, $250 just to get a new patient. And you figure that out by what did you spend for marketing, and then how many new patients came in, and just divide it into it. So if you spent $3,000, you got 10 new patients, it costs you $300 for a patient. So you have to figure out, number one, what is your lifetime value of a patient? How are you maintaining them? Are you keeping them under care? Are they staying at least for a year? Are they referring their friends and family? But don't worry about that. How are they averaging? So as you watch your practice, you'll start realizing your retention level. And so therefore, reactivating patients, I just hate the term because it's almost doesn't happen. What happens is, I say the best reactivation program is a good report of findings to keep them there in the first place. I'll go back to the scenario of having a date. Imagine going on a date and being a bad date. And let's say if you're a man and then you ask the woman out, you didn't have a good time, and you call her back in about 2 months. Hey, it's Bruce calling. Remember that date we had? It kind of stunk, but I'd like to try it again. Well, what's your chances? It's going to be slim and none. Well, if a patient comes to your office and goes through care, 2 things have happened. There was a research done years ago. They interviewed like 400 people who'd gone to chiropractors, and they asked them, were you happy? And over 85% said they were more than happy. They got more than they expected. They were ecstatic. And then when they asked them, would you come back, only 18% said they would. And that's pretty curious. Why would 85% of the people be happy, but only 18% would return? And the reason why was because they called it indifference. After the patients came in and got what they wanted, they said the doctors kept calling them up and bugging them to come back. And because they never understood, because the doctors didn't do a good job of educating them to understand why they would come back, they just thought that they would get rid of their pain. So they left happy, but later became pissed off. And so you need to take a person from day one and bring them through the process so they understand. So when you recall them, they know that they've missed the point. But in most situations, things don't, when they're gone, they're gone. So I don't put a lot of attention. I know a lot of people, I've bought and sold practices, and people have had me appraise practices for them, and they've had me come in and, and they go, this thing's a gold mine. They go, because, a few years ago I was making all this money and I got all these, patient files, but I'm just kind of like burnt out. Well, guess what? It's not a gold mine. It's a practice is the sum total of you. And the reason why our practice is down is because of you. And so just because you got a bunch of records of past dates, so to speak, doesn't mean they're all coming back. So I want to, before we talk about reactivation, I want to talk about the idea that it's not really a good thing to do, because you want to activate patients, not reactivate them. So start looking at your patients as a lifetime value when they come in, and the recommendations you'll make. I mean, I can't tell you the countless amount of doctors that have called me up and said, my patients love me. I love that one. They love me, and but you know what? After about 3 months, I just have a hard time maintaining them. And I go, well, and in every situation, when someone says they stay about a month, I'll look at their first report of findings. Guess what they recommended? A month. We'll see you for 12 visits, see how you're doing, and we'll go from there. Well, 12 visits later, they're feeling better, and because they weren't told otherwise, the patient says, well, I'm done. I mean, he said 12 visits to see how you're doing. I'm doing great. They didn't even show up. This one doctor I was thinking about, he was a very strong doctor too. Very, very good practice, but he had 90-day retention because that was his first recommendations was 90 days. So you have to understand, you look internal, look where you're coming from. If you're afraid to tell someone that chiropractic is a process, well, then maybe you don't understand chiropractic. But I'm telling you, if you think you can sit there and bring somebody back into balance for life after 12 visits, show me. I've been under care, and I've been adjusted by some of the best, well, at least some of the more celebrated in the country, in the world. I've been lucky. I was been involved with the Parker Foundation for so many years. I've met probably every guru on the planet, and I've been adjusted by them, and still, my body requires follow-up care. I wasn't fixed. When I was 19, I had all kinds of problems, and I got adjusted intently for a year, but I'm still under care. They got me coming back. But the point being is, if I don't come back, my body starts succumbing to gravity, stress, all the things that are there. So you have to look inside yourself and see where you're coming from. And then at that point, you can maximize the lifetime value of your patient by getting them to totally understand. I don't want to be in the office fighting all day, playing tug of war about getting them to come back and doing this and it's just negative. But the more they understand the benefit, it's like when you show somebody how to eat right. When they start realizing, that when they use a discipline of putting good food in their mouth, after a while, you don't have to sit there and harp on them. They just do it. So rather than spend thousands of dollars on marketing for new patients that are ill-informed, medically oriented people, you put the emphasis on the patients that have already bought you. They've already come to you. And then you invest time. I have a newsletter. This drives me crazy. It's not a chiropractic newsletter. And that's why, when I say that, it doesn't talk about how to adjust people and all that stuff. And the reason why is because the average person is we're trying to bridge them from medicine. So my newsletter, it talks about healthy, recipes. It always talks about a miracle story every month, about some miracle chiropractic patient. But it's soft sell. It's connected. It's a connection material. It's $97. We customize it for you, and then we actually send it out to your email list for $97. It's the cheapest connection tool, but that's investing in maintaining. You want to continue connecting to your patients once they're there. So many people do all their attention. I mean, I've called doctors up and they go, and they're seeing patients. I'll say, is Dr. so-and-so there? They go, oh, yeah, just a second. He comes out, what's up, man? What are you doing? I'm just adjusting, but I have a few minutes. But then if I call and have a new patient, they go, oh, no, he's with a new patient. And they act like it's almost like this, religious experience because you got a new patient. Well, here's how I look at new patients. I don't give them all the best stuff because they say that they're coming to us to test us. We're testing them. They've not committed to care yet. My most important patients are the ones that have already committed to me. So I don't sit there and deviate and take phone calls during regular patients. I don't do it by any patients, by the way. But my point is, I don't put a new patient at the higher value than I do a committed patient. The new patient hasn't proven themselves yet. They've not, come in and got involved in the program. They've not, showed us, that, they're going to follow through. So we educate them. We love them. But my point is that we still always put our trusted, committed patients first, because that's how we solidify our relationships with them. But understand this: a simple reactivation program. If you have 1,000 patient files in your patient list, 7 to 10% of them will immediately reactivate when you call them. But here's the secret. I don't have the CA call them. I call them. I've got relationships with them. They don't. And when they call up and say, "Hi, Mrs. Jones, this is Sally Smith at Dr. Parker's office. And Dr. Parker wanted me to call you and say he hasn't seen you for a while and get your ass in here." Excuse me, I lost myself. But, that's kind of the deal. But if I call and I say, hey Sally, this is Dr. Bruce Parker, your chiropractor. I was going through some charts today and yours kind of fell out, and I just started thinking about you and wondered how you are. So how when I first saw you, you're having those headaches, you weren't feeling very good. How you doing now? And just have a little conversation. I don't call to try to get them back in. I call to replant my message in their brain. And what will happen is then the universe takes over. And I always tell them, hey, I'd love to see you, and just check you sometime if you think that it's appropriate, come in, and get checked, and And, the first one's always on me. So it's been a while, so come down, say hi. Let's get your records rebuilt. And I'll get people back that way. But way more effective than having the CA call, I've found. If a patient value is $500, which is really not, it generates $35,000 in accrued revenues that year just by getting that amount of people in. So imagine if my program is about $3,500 a year, and that patient's gone. The first year is $3,500. The following years are closer to $1,200. So you can recall people and get them back under care. Every year they're not under care, you're losing $1,200 a patient. So 1,000 patients, if you had out there that were under care, that's $1.2 million right there. So there's a big value there, and there's so much more fun to see. So the simple reactivation program is doctor does the calling. It's just that way. It's just the must situation. And then send a letter afterwards. Don't get lazy and think that you're going to send your CA out and have them get on the phone when they should be doing more important things and try to sell the patients back into your office while you're sitting in the back room, reading your magazines. Get on the phone yourself and do it. And then after you've done it, send a letter thanking them. It was great seeing you again, and it was great talking to you. And by the way, here's a pass, to come in there for another evaluation. So it's a follow-up. If you send letters first, trying to recall patients, it's not going to work. They've lost connection. By calling and reconnecting, that's where the magic is. So call, reconnect, and then send a letter to continue the connection. And in fact, if you're smart, we have an autoresponder email series that we send people. So every few days they get another email from us, and that way, we start a solid connection. Well, that's the tip for the day. I hope you enjoyed it and hope you apply it quickly. Meanwhile, have an awesome day, and I'll see you on the next video.